In life, there are gifts that seem small, but hide a whole tragedy behind them. On his 67th birthday, Mr. Jack unexpectedly received a luxury gift box placed on his porch. It was the first time after many years apart that his daughter, Emily, sent him a gift. Inside were rare Cuban cigars, something any man with a passion for them would consider priceless. But Jack had quit smoking long ago, after a severe illness almost took his life. So why did Emily give him this gift? Was it a way to reconnect, or something else, darker? The story you're about to hear is not just a family tragedy, but a journey of a father forced to face a bitter truth. His own flesh and blood wants to push him toward death. Don't forget to subscribe and comment where you're watching from. That day, the pale, late autumn sunlight fell on Jack's porch. A glossy wooden box sat neatly on the doorstep. Jack froze. The lid's wood grain shimmered, edged with gold that sparkled in the light, exuding unusual luxury. No sender's address, just a small, neat card. Happy birthday. Though only 2 words, Jack immediately recognized the handwriting. Strong, decisive, somewhat cold. It was his daughter Emily's handwriting. Jack's heart skipped a beat. He hadn't heard Emily call him Dad in many years. After her wedding, she left him and rarely kept in touch. Whenever she did appear, it was only about money, property, the future. Never a word about his health or simple joys. Jack sat down and opened the box. The scent of wood mixed with the rich aroma of cigars filled the air. Inside, 10 Cuban cigars were neatly arranged. Expensive, rare, something the father once proudly showed off to his friends. But now, Jack just quietly stared at them. He had quit smoking 2 years ago, after pneumonia nearly ended his life. Did Emily know that? Or had she never cared? Jack picked up a cigar and held it under the light. It was beautiful, but stirred in him a feeling he couldn't quite name. Was it joy at being remembered, or some growing unease? He gave a faint smile. Maybe she just wants to make peace. With that thought, Jack decided not to keep them. Instead, he gave them to Richard Hale, Emily's father-in-law and a longtime friend. Richard still had the habit of smoking cigars and would appreciate them more. In Jack's heart, a small hope flickered. Maybe this was a sign that Emily wanted to come back, that she remembered her father. A tiny belief, but enough to warm him on that lonely afternoon. Jack didn't know that this decision to give away the gift would set off a chain of haunting events. Richard Hale was a longtime friend of Jack's and also Emily's father-in-law. Unlike Jack, Richard still smoked cigars after every dinner. When Jack brought the gift box, Richard smiled comfortably. "You're lucky, Jack, to be remembered by your daughter and receive such a precious gift." Jack only gave a faint smile. Inside, he still felt a bit warm thinking Emily truly remembered him. That night, at a small gathering at Richard's house, a cigar was lit. The characteristic aroma filled the air. Laughter echoed. But just minutes later, Richard froze. His face turned pale, his breath quickened. The glass in his hand slipped, shattering on the tile floor. The family rushed him to the hospital in panic. Jack also ran over, his heart pounding wildly. In the cold, white room, the steady beeping of machines filled the air as the doctor stepped out with a serious face. "It's not a heart condition, nor is it a sudden illness. There are signs of a foreign substance in his body. It's possible he inhaled a poisoned cigar." The words stabbed sharply into Jack's heart. Instantly, the image of the elegant wooden box, the neatly arranged cigars inside, and the familiar words, "Happy Birthday," flashed in his mind. Jack was stunned. He whispered, "But that box was sent to me." Richard's relatives immediately turned their gaze toward him. No one spoke, but a heavy silence filled the room. Jack stepped out into the hospital hallway. The November night wind blew cold and sharp. He took a deep breath, but all he felt was burning pain in his chest, like the pneumonia flare-up from years ago. Emily knew he had quit smoking, knew how fragile his lungs were. So why send this? His steps were slow and heavy, like he was walking through a maze. He recalled every detail: the card, the handwriting, not a single warm word. Everything was cold, deliberate, a gift of concern, or a calculated trap. That night, Jack sat alone in the empty house, the wooden box lying empty on the table. The yellow light reflected off the golden trim, sparkling as if mocking him. A gift from his own daughter. Was it a chance for fatherly reconciliation? Or just the start of a plot? Fear rose in Jack's heart, not just for himself, but for the truth waiting ahead. He knew that from the moment Richard collapsed, nothing would ever be the same again. Jack's house sank into silence. After leaving the hospital, he sat motionless in the living room, the desk lamp casting light on the elegant wooden box. Darkness closed in thickly, making him feel like everything was shutting tight around him. In that silence, memories slowly flooded back. Jack remembered Emily as a little girl. She used to run around the garden, her braided hair swinging in the afternoon sun. Once, he sat on the wooden porch chair, holding a cigar, while Emily sat in his lap, mischievously drawing imaginary maps on his chest. The clear laughter of that childhood was now just a distant echo. Jack suddenly realized the little girl who clung to her father was gone. In her place was now a cold, distant woman who seemed to remember him only when money or inheritance was involved. He stood up and stepped onto the porch. The night wind howled. Jack pulled his coat tight. But the cold didn't come from the weather. It came from deep inside his chest. The pain of the past surged the days after his wife Martha left. The house fell into endless silence. Emily gradually drifted away too, leaving him alone with his loneliness. Jack looked around the familiar room, once filled with family laughter. Now only the ticking of a clock remained. He silently asked himself, "Since when did she stop calling me father? Since when did she see me as an obstacle instead of a support?" That night, he didn't sleep. He sat staring at the wooden box. In his mind, the worry grew clearer if Richard almost died just because of a cigar. Then the real target wasn't him. It was Jack. A question lingered in his mind, Emily. Why did you do this? The pain didn't just come from the suspicion of being harmed, but from an even harsher truth. The person he loved, protected, and raised his whole life could now be trying to remove him from it. Jack knew the sweet memories of the past would always be a part of him. But at the same time, he understood that reality was slowly turning into a nightmare. And to survive, he had to prepare to face the truth. The next morning, Jack drove to the local police station. The sky was gray and heavy with clouds, reflecting his mood. In his hand was the wooden box and a short card with the words, "Happy Birthday," the only evidence he had. In the lobby, a female officer about 40 years old approached. She was agile, with sharp eyes and a calm voice. She introduced herself. "I'm Detective Morales. Avim?" "What would you like to report?" Jack placed the box on the table, his voice trembling but determined. "My daughter sent me this cigar box. I don't smoke, so I gave it to my friend, Richard Hale. He was hospitalized after being poisoned from smoking it. The doctor said it wasn't a heart issue, but a strange substance in the cigar. I believe this is no coincidence." Morales furrowed her brow slightly, opened the box, carefully examined the wood grain, then bent down to smell it. Then she looked up, her eyes serious. "This is a very serious accusation, Mr. Carter." Emily officially filed for guardianship, citing, "My father has memory loss and is no longer capable of managing his assets and health." Jack sat silently for hours with the paper in front of him. The room was pitch dark, with only the sharp ticking of the clock piercing the silence. He remembered the last time Emily came home 3 years ago, sitting at the dining table with her husband, handing over a stack of papers requesting money to buy a house. When he refused because the amount was too large, Emily's eyes completely changed cold, resentful. Now he understood that resentment had never disappeared. It was just waiting for the right moment to explode. But Jack was not easily defeated. He opened the cabinet and took out stacks of financial records, property papers, medical records, all carefully kept. Even bills from decades ago. He kept every one of them. He began keeping a detailed diary every meeting, Every word, every neighbor who mentioned Emily. Each page was a piece of evidence proving he was still clear-headed, alert, and being slandered by his own daughter. When he brought the thick file to Lawyer Jacobs, he said, "I need your help. Emily doesn't just want my assets, she wants my entire life." Jacobs flipped through the pages, nodding, "Mr. Carter, all these documents prove you are clear and responsible. If she wants to take you to court, these will be your weapons." Jack looked down at the table, his aged hands clenching tightly. He never imagined he would have to prepare to fight his own daughter. But as the scheme gradually became clear, he knew there was no turning back. Outside, the December wind howled through the window, dragging tree branches that scraped loudly against the wall. Jack clearly felt the real battle was only just beginning. On the guardianship court day, the courtroom wasn't crowded, but the atmosphere was heavy as lead. Jack sat in the front row, beside Lawyer Jacobs, his hand firmly pressed on the thick diary, the only weapon proving his clarity. The door opened. Emily walked in. The same beautiful face, the same confident walk, but her eyes no longer held any warmth. Beside her was her husband Daniel in a neat suit, but his face was tense, his eyes avoiding contact. The judge opened the case file. Emily stood up, her voice sweet but full of scheming. "Your Honor, my father is no longer capable of taking care of himself. He often forgets to lock the door, forgets to take his medicine, and lives alone in dangerous conditions. I just want to protect him." Jack looked straight at his daughter. In his eyes, Emily was no longer the little girl who used to call out Daddy. Now, she stood before him like an opponent, ready to defeat her father with lies. When it was his turn, Jack stood up. His voice was deep and steady. "I am 67 years old. That's true, but I still remember every day, every task. This is the file I manage myself, not missing a single expense. This is the medicine log where I record the time I take each dose daily. And this," he held up a diary, "is evidence of the stories my daughter has made up to slander me." Jacobs handed the judge thick stacks of documents. The room fell silent. The judge flipped through each page, frowning. Daniel sat behind, his hands clenched tightly. Clearly, he was struggling internally. Jack caught that look, seeing worry and shame in it. When the court recessed, Jack approached his daughter. He spoke softly, just loud enough for Emily to hear. "Emily, why are you doing this? Your father is still alive, but you treat him like he's dead." Emily pressed her lips tight, her eyes flashing with anger. "You never understand. To you, property and money matter more than I do. You've never stood by me." Jack choked up. He wanted to shout that everything he protected was for her sake, but he knew words now couldn't break through the wall of ambition that clouded Emily's heart. Returning to his seat, Daniel suddenly stepped forward, his voice low. "Uncle Jack, He hesitated, then bowed his head. "I'm sorry." Jack looked at his son-in-law, his gaze firm. "Daniel, you still have time to choose right. But remember, the truth can't be hidden forever." The court ended with the decision Emily's guardianship petition was denied. The court recognized Jack as fully lucid and capable of self-management. Emily clenched her fists, her face pale. She turned away, pulling Daniel's hand as they left the room. But before stepping out, she turned back to look at her father. Her eyes no longer filled with sadness, but with burning hatred. Jack sat down, his heart heavy. He knew this confrontation was not over. This was just the beginning of a long and dangerous battle. After the trial, Jack thought Emily would back down, but just days later, he noticed unusual signs. One morning, a new bottle of medicine appeared on his kitchen table, labeled with his name. But Jack was certain he had never visited the clinic printed on it. Opening the bottle, the pills inside were smooth white, with no markings. Jack felt a chill run down his spine. He immediately took them to Lawyer Jacobs. Jacobs examined them carefully, then said gravely, "Don't take these. I'll send them for analysis." "This isn't a regular prescription." Jack nodded, his eyes darkened. He understood Emily hadn't stopped. Another day, When he went to check his car in the garage, Jack saw a puddle of oil under it. He bent down and found the brake line had a strange cut. His heart tightened. If he had driven down a steep road, just one turn, the outcome might have already been sealed. He recalled seeing Emily standing in the corner of the yard the day before, her cold gaze following him as he left the house. Everything now came together like a clear picture. His daughter was persistently setting traps to end her father's life. Jack did not panic. He began to act strategically. He installed hidden cameras in the garage, recording every detail. He kept a more detailed journal, noting every day and every event. He saved phone calls just in case he needed evidence. Meanwhile, Daniel Emily's husband began showing cracks. One evening, he came to Jack's house, eyes tired, hands trembling. "Mr. Jack, Emily, she's not the same anymore. She said if I don't follow her, I'll lose everything. I don't know what to do." Jack looked at his son-in-law and saw fear in his eyes. He spoke softly. "Son, I don't want you to go against your wife. But if you keep turning a blind eye, one day you'll be the one standing at my coffin. Are you ready to carry that burden your whole life?" Daniel lowered his head, silent. But Jack knew the seed of doubt had been planted in his mind. The following days brought a series of terrifying events. One night, while reviewing the security footage, Jack saw a familiar figure sneaking into the yard. It was Emily. She bent near the car, holding a metal tool, moving with determination. Jack clenched his fists, feeling both pain and coldness. He no longer saw the little girl he once knew. All that remained before him was a woman turning her own father into a target. After watching the footage, Detective Morales said thoughtfully, "Mr. Carter, this is no longer just suspicion. This is evidence of a conspiracy. But to catch her red-handed, we need her to reveal herself more." Jack nodded. He knew that to end this, patience was necessary. Emily had set traps for him many times. Now it was time for him to prepare one for her. In the quiet house, Jack sat at the desk, flipping through pages of a journal. The scratch of the pen echoed steadily. He wrote, "She's tried drugs, cars, every method, but I'm still here. And next time she acts, the truth will be undeniable." Outside, the wind rustled the trees, leaves whispering like a warning. Jack closed his eyes, took a deep breath, then whispered, "Emily, you've chosen this path. I won't give up. I'll wait. And this time, you'll fall into the trap you set yourself." After days of thought, Jack decided he couldn't just wait for Emily to strike again. He needed a plan, a trap that would make Emily expose herself to the law. One afternoon, Jack met with lawyer Jacobs. He brought an old file stock certificates from the 1980s, most worthless after market crashes. Jack laid them on the table, his eyes shining with determination. "We'll let Emily think I'm hiding a huge fortune in these papers. The girl is naturally greedy. She won't be able to resist." Jacobs pondered, then nodded. "You want to turn these papers into bait?" Jack gave a faint smile. "Exactly. If Emily is really calculating each step to seize control, this will be the bait that makes her rush and slip up." A few days later, Jack accidentally let Emily in on the old investments he no longer had the strength to manage. He appeared tired, forgetful, and mentioned needing someone younger to help assess their value. Every time Emily visited, he deliberately left the file exposed on the table, as if forgetting to put it away. Emily's eyes lit up. Though she spoke words of concern, "Don't worry, Dad, I'll help you." Her hand trembled slightly as it touched the old papers. Jack knew his daughter had taken the bait. A week later, Morales called Jack. Her voice was firm. "We've been secretly monitoring." Emily went to the bank and submitted a request to withdraw files related to your stock account. The request bore your signature, but it was clearly forged. Jacobs added, "Mr. Carter, we have proof of document forgery. But to end this once and for all, we need to catch her red-handed beyond any doubt." Jack fell silent, then said, "Let her make the move herself. Once she believes that getting rid of me will give her everything, she will walk right into the trap." The plan was set. The police agreed to secretly assist installing hidden cameras in the garage, under the hood, and even in the glasses he usually wore. A few days later, the police reported Jack's car had been tampered with. He decided to act. That night, Jack deliberately sat in the living room under dim light, pretending to have fallen asleep. But the outdoor camera recorded everything: Emily sneaking in, holding a tool, bending down under the car. Her hands worked quickly, neatly cutting the brake line, then wiping away any traces. As she stood up, she flashed a brief smile, a victorious smile. Jack quietly watched from the small screen inside the house. His heart ached. The daughter who once hugged him, calling Dad, was now turning the car, a symbol of so many family memories, into a weapon. The next morning, Jack prepared as usual. He put on a neat shirt and wore the shoes Emily had given him many years ago. When he got to the garage, he opened the car door and sat in the driver's seat. He knew that, at the other end of the street, Emily was waiting. He turned the key. The engine started smoothly. He slowly drove out onto the road. Just then, police cars came rushing from both directions, blocking Emily's car parked nearby. She was startled, panicked, trying to start the engine but couldn't in time. A loudspeaker announced Emily Hale. "You are under arrest for forgery and conspiracy to commit murder." Emily screamed, tears streaming. "No! Dad, please, tell them I'm innocent." Jack opened the car door and stood up. His eyes were determined but filled with pain. He spoke in a low, clear voice. "Emily, you're the one who set traps for me. And now, you've fallen into your own trap." The street grew silent. Jack turned away, unable to watch any longer. He knew this battle was over, but the price to pay was a lifetime of pain. The courtroom was packed. Local media had widely reported the case. Daughter attempts to murder her biological father for inheritance. People crowded in, whispering, eyes fixed on every movement in the cold room. Jack sat in the front row, gripping his cane tightly. Deep wrinkles marked his face, his gaze both resolute and weighed down by an indescribable pain. Beside him, Lawyer Jacobs flipped through thick evidence files documenting the long journey Jack had endured. Emily was brought in, her hands still marked by handcuffs. Her face was pale, eyes swollen from many sleepless nights. Gone was the proud beauty of before. Now, to Jack, she looked like a broken woman, yet a flicker of hatred still burned in her eyes. The prosecutor stood up, voice booming in the silent room. Evidence shows that defendant Emily Hale repeatedly plotted to harm her father, Jack Carter, using various methods: poison, forgery, and sabotaging transportation. Hidden cameras and witness testimonies have confirmed these crimes. On the large screen, video clips were played. Footage showed Emily sneaking into the garage. Footage showed her crouching down to cut the brake lines. The scene shows her smiling as she stands up, thinking no one is watching. In the courtroom, many people shudder. Lawyer Jacobs stands up. Iksa. He doesn't say much. Only briefly. We never wanted this to happen. But to protect his life, Mr. Carter had to face the harshest truth. His own daughter set the trap. And now, justice must be served. Emily bursts into tears, sobbing painfully. When allowed to give her final words, she lifts her head, her eyes red as she looks straight at her father. Dad, you've never been on my side. You love money more than your own daughter. I just wanted what's mine. I just wanted you to acknowledge me. The whole room falls silent. Jack lowers his head. His heart feels like it's being cut. He stands up and slowly walks to the witness stand. His voice is deep and slow, but carries far. Emily, I lost you long ago. Not today, but the day you let ambition blind your heart. I kept the assets, not for myself, but so you would have a foundation. But you chose to destroy everything, including family. He turns to the judge. I don't want my daughter to spend her life in prison. But I can't pretend she's innocent either. Please judge fairly, so my daughter has a chance to reflect on herself. The courtroom murmurs. Many are moved by the voice of a father, both firm and full of pain. After hours of debate, the judge strikes the gavel. Defendant Emily Hale is sentenced to 12 years in prison for attempted murder and forgery of legal documents. This sentence is not only to punish, but also to serve as a warning. The gavel's sound echoes, sealing her fate. Emily collapses, her shoulders trembling. Daniel, her husband, sits behind, his face pale, hands covering his face. Jack closes his eyes, tears streaming down. He knows he has won this life-or-death battle, but deep inside, he also knows this is the greatest defeat of a father's life, failing to keep his daughter's heart. The sentencing day ends, and the city returns to its daily rhythm. But for Jack, everything has changed. The house once filled with memories is now heavy with darkness and silence. He walked through each room, looking at the old photos hanging on the walls. Emily as a child, her pure smile, her hand tightly holding her father's. Where has that girl gone? He whispered. Every morning, Jack still woke up early, brewed a cup of tea, and opened his diary. But instead of writing about schemes or evidence, he wrote about his longing. He missed the Emily of the past, the moment the little girl ran into her father's arms, and the innocent laughter that once warmed the whole house. One late afternoon, Daniel came to visit. His face was gaunt, his eyes bloodshot. He knelt before Jack, voice choked. "Sir, I couldn't stop Emily. I'm deeply sorry." "I know you have every reason to hate us, but please give me a chance to make it right." In his eyes, Jack saw not lies, but genuine remorse. He sighed softly. "Daniel, hatred won't get us anywhere. Live well. Take care of your children, so they don't lose their way like their mother." In the days that followed, he began to find a peaceful rhythm in life again. He joined a senior club, strolled through the park, and made friends with others who had also experienced loss. They sat together, sharing stories, and Jack realized the pain isn't unique to him, but how we face it truly shapes the rest of our lives. Once he was invited to speak at a community gathering. He stood before the crowd, his voice slow but warm. "I have been through a battle no one wishes for, with my own daughter. I lost a child. But I learned this wealth and fame mean nothing if love no longer exists in the family." Don't wait until it's too late to realize what's truly most precious in life. Many wiped away tears. Jack bowed, feeling some of the weight lift from his heart. On the weekend, he visited the prison. Through the thick glass, he saw Emily in a dull gray prison uniform. She sat there, eyes tired, hair messy. The moment their eyes met, both father and daughter were silent. Jack held his phone, speaking softly. "I'm not here to blame you.